So welcome everybody. My name is Christine Curry and I am the Iowa Outreach Coordinator of the Upper Mississippi River Initiative, UMRI, and welcome to our March 2021 series on soil and water conservation, Thinking Like a Watershed program. And again, thank you for taking time to join us this evening. This evening, it's Local Heroes in Howard County. This is a fascinating presentation by Howard County's Watershed coordinators, Neil Shaffer and Hunter Slifka, and how they have incorporated several thousand acres of land under conservation programs, in fact, the largest percentage in Iowa. The monthly presentations take place the first Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. and they are jointly hosted by our Isaac Walton League colleagues, Upper Mississippi River Initiative, Agriculture Outreach Coordinator Tim Wagner, and Save Our Streams Coordinator Zach Moss. Also, we have co-host Chris Henning from the Panora Conservation Chapter and the Des Moines Chapter Communications Director Bud Hartley. So welcome, and I will hand it over to Tim Wagner to introduce our presentation speaker this evening.
Well, thanks, Christine, and welcome everybody. Boy, what a group, man. We got people from, I don't know how many states, but this is awesome. This is really, really fine. Just real quickly, I first met Neil Shaffer. I don't know, Neil, probably what, 3 or 4 years ago, I guess. Maybe at some soil and water meeting, I don't really recall, but I have been pretty determined to stay in touch with Neil and just kind of follow along with some of the stuff that he and Hunter have been doing. And it is impressive. And he has been very gracious in accommodating us on a nice evening here in February or March, I should say. And he's going to have some good stories to tell. So Neil, I will turn it over to you.
All right, I am going to speak from a PowerPoint, and my presentation will last about a half hour, and then that will leave us about a half hour for questions and comments and whatever you'd like to finish in the program. So I am going to get back on to the screen, which I'm not exactly there we go. And are we good?
We're good.
All right.
Looks great.
Well, welcome everyone. I am very happy to have this opportunity to speak to so many people. And it has been a pleasure. It's been about a year or less than a year that we got to meet this group. Hunter and I attended a meeting just in Northeast Iowa where they were presenting on some water quality issues. And we talked about some of the things that we do in Howard County. And it's kind of blossomed from there, and we've been staying in touch. To begin with, Howard County is in Northeast Iowa. And Hunter Slifka, unfortunately, one of the things I'll talk about in a little bit is how to be not only a watershed coordinator, this is not a 9-to-5 job, but to become part of your community. Hunter joined on with the local fire department, and he got called away. So I'm going to be winging it. But honestly, I think I like this better. I can talk about what a wonderful guy he is without making him blush. So, like I said, Silver Creek Watershed Coordinator is my position. I have worked with the Soil and Water Conservation in Howard County just about 20 years. Actually, one of the participants this evening, Jim Wolf, was my district conservationist when I was hired here. And had I known the journey that this would take me over the last 20 years, I cannot tell you what a remarkable opportunity I have had to help my fellow community, my farmers in the community, and everyone to work on water quality issues. And as we go through this presentation, you can get a glimpse at what we have been doing. Now, Hunter Slifka, he the last 2 years has been a full-time worker with us. He is a full-time project coordinator, just like myself. My watershed project is funded by the Iowa DNR Section 319, a water quality division. Hunter's project is funded by the Water Quality Initiative and is the Turkey River headwaters. So our watersheds in the county are next to each other, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. I have been a lifelong resident of Howard County, as Hunter has. Our family ties are deep in the community right from the beginning 150 years ago. So we have a definite connection to our community, and that helps us also. So Silver Creek is right on the Howard and Winneshiek County line. We've got the city of Cresco. It's divided half and half. Half is in my watershed and half is in Hunter's watershed. The county line is right here. The Silver Creek is a cold water stream that is a tributary to the upper Iowa River. And Hunter's watershed is in the Turkey River watershed, and that drains south and then east to the Mississippi River also. A little bit about my watershed. The reason our watershed began in 2013 is we had high levels of bacteria. The upper Iowa River is a very close contact river, a lot of recreational kayaking, canoeing, fishing, swimming, and so definitely we wanted to lower these levels of bacteria. It's about 22,000 acres, 14,000 acres are in Howard County, and about 8,000 in Winneshiek County. To date, in the 9 years that we have been implementing this project, over $7 million has been invested in conservation in the watershed. And in the last 3 years, which has really gotten the attention of a lot of people, is we have been able to implement 33% of the row crop in the watershed to cover crops. And obviously our project goal is to reduce bacteria levels. And also, being Hunter's not here, I've got plenty of cameo appearances by him. The gentleman on the left is Ryan Stefan, who was our intern last year and will be coming back again this year. So definitely our office has a tremendous staff and support. This is not a 1 or 2 person job. This is a team effort, and I will talk a little bit more about them as we go. This is Hunter's watershed. So my watershed fits right into this area here. Hunter's watershed is it's a little bit larger. It's a 3 Huck 12. So he has a little bit larger watershed, which in regards to the Water Quality Initiative, 60,000 acres is kind of the average size for that type of watershed. Whereas the 319 project, that 25 to 30,000 acres is pretty similar to what others do. Like I said, Hunter's watershed is about 3 times the size of mine, 62,000 acres. It includes Vernon Springs, which is an impoundment in the background of this picture. This was Hunter Slifka back in 2015. 1 year into his college career, he was put in charge of a planning grant for the Turkey River watershed. Such a capable young man at that age, and here he is awarded this 1 year project to hit the ground running and prepare down the road for a full-blown watershed funded project. And to date, Hunter began his project 1 year ago, and he has already had nearly $2 million invested in conservation in the watershed of his area. So he's coming up quickly in my rearview mirror. So he is definitely a conservationist to keep an eye on in Iowa. His project goals are where I had primarily bacteria. His project is reducing nitrate loading, phosphorus loading, sediment loading, and also peak discharge. Because of the flooding we had in 2008 and 2013, that has been something that the structures and some of those things that go hand in hand with what we're doing help with the flooding also downstream. Some of our successes and milestones. This is something, the trout reintroduction in the Silver Creek watershed was nothing that we even thought of when we wrote the watershed management plan. This came about as documentation of the quality of the raw water, and as improvements were being made and the quality of water improved, brook trout from Winneshiek County, which is a native trout to Iowa, and there hadn't been trout in this stream in over 40 years. We had documented the quality of the stream so that in 2017, 700 fingerlings were released. In 18, it was 2,400, and then last year, 3,200. And what happened was just fantastic, because in 2019, we documented natural regeneration of these brook trout, which made the DNR fisheries very excited. And that's why last year they brought back another 3,200 fingerlings. Not only are the fingerlings growing and reproducing, but the idea of continuing to bring some more is to increase the number of genetics within the watershed. So like I said, the in-stream water habitat, the improvements and the improvements on water quality have all come because of the upland treatments that we have done. This is a byproduct of what the farmers in the watersheds have done to improve this water. And we can talk all day about water quality and parts per million and all that, but here's Hunter holding a brown trout, which is in his streams, and that picture is worth 1,000 words, if not more, just to show the quality and what the efforts here are producing. We have 16 locations in the 2 watersheds that we're doing monitoring. We've been monitoring in my watershed for about 15 years, and in Hunter's watershed for about 8. We do bi-monthly water sampling. So 1 week we're water sampling in Silver Creek, the next in Turkey River. So from April through October, we are water monitoring every week. And also, you know, we did a lot of the upland treatment. Now we're focusing somewhat on some of the streams just because of that quality of improvement. Stream bank stabilization in the last 5 years, we've done 20,000 feet of riprap and shaping the banks. This is a tremendous contributor to nutrients downstream, especially phosphorus and bacteria, which attaches to sediment. So this is amazing development also. And like I said, it wasn't an initial goal of the project, but because the water qualities have improved so much, we're now focusing not only in-stream habitat, the in-stream corridors, but the upland. So with my watershed, being it was bacteria, we've done a lot of work with ag waste structures. We have 8 structures that we have completed. We're in the process of doing 2, 3 more in the next year. Septic system upgrades. We've upgraded 22 septic systems, and nutrient management, not only for manure management, but also the nutrient management, which the program of the Conservation Stewardship Program, CSP, ties that into nutrient management. So I leverage with that program, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So we're coming at this from many angles, and we're using every available program that there is on the books, and we go from program to program when they become more available or a better deal, or just the funds are there. And cover crops. Cover crops 5 years ago in the county, in these 2 watersheds, if there was 1,000 acres, I would be surprised. Just in the last 5 years, we've almost doubled every 2 or 3 years. So to the point that last year we did 20,000 acres of cover crop, and those are contracted under multi-year contracts with EQIP. WQI is a state program, which is a 1-year deal, and CSP is another program that incorporates some cover crop. This last year, with the cover crops, we posted signs on 45 different properties showcasing that. After we got all the signs up, we started getting phone calls. It's like, well, where's my sign? So I think we'll be putting in an order next year. But the adoption of this. Not only that, but this last year, Hunter and I did a very concerted effort to get as many people signed up for the EQA program. I'll back up one second. Hunter and I also went after some additional pots of money through NRCS with the EQA program. We both wrote proposals for NWQI and the MRBI, which is the Mississippi River Basin Initiative and the National Water Quality Initiative. They are EQIP funds, but they are primarily for cover crops. They are at a high rate. This year we are offering contracts at $50 an acre. Those are 3-year contracts. If someone commits to doing strip till, no-till, we can go to a 5-year contract, which helps us put more acres in long-term contracts. So each year we can go after the next round of individuals who may not have been in on it before. One of our deals, and like I said, Hunter and I are both very ingrained in our community. It's not, like I said, not a 9-to-5 job. We live, we breathe, we talk about it. We see people in the restaurant, we see them at the grocery store, at church, at events. It's trust. It's building that trust with our landowners and producers and acknowledging them. We had every 2 years, I said I wasn't going to get emotional about this, but that's how passionate Hunter and I are about what we do. Every 2 years we have an awards meeting, and we have families who are acknowledged and recognized for what they are doing. The joy you see on these people's faces is real. I mean, these people, you know, we met with people that have tremendous erosion. They've seen their streams go down the river. They've seen loss of habitat, different things, and they're concerned about their community. They're concerned about the water, and they want something done. So what Hunter and I are doing is we are making sure that every available program, every available assistance is made to these people. And it's just a joy to work with these people. Another area, CRP, like I said, we use every program. We come at it from every angle. CRP is a very important program. It's a conservation reserve program. In my watershed, we have 15% of the watershed we have enrolled into CRP, buffers along the corridor of these streams. And they include grass waterways, filter strips, prairie strips, wetland programs, and large blocks of native grass habitat. Also the pollinator program has been very popular. So, and totally in the entire Howard County, we have nearly 25,000 acres. I believe we're 5th in the state of Iowa with the number of CRP contracts. And so 2,245 CRP contracts. So our soil and water district has always been very aggressive. When I was first hired, there was a funding from the local PF chapter. They hired me to promote CRP buffers. So, so I have, for 20 years, this has been something I really enjoy in doing. Like I said, grass waterways, Hunter Slifka and our district technicians and myself, we don't believe in just promoting things and asking other people in the office to do. We get in and roll our sleeves up and we get right out there. Hunter and I both have our job approval authority for designing waterways. Hunter is doing the design of our stream bank projects now. He will be getting his job approval authority for that. So it's not we're just out promoting and knocking on the doors and doing promotion. We like to get dirty. We like to get out in the field. And I think our farmers and our contractors also, we've developed a relationship with them that they are also, we have that mutual communication and understanding. For instance, we found out that there was a state program where you can put headlands in. It's a hay program. Farmers are asked to put seeded down for 5 years. We pay them $300. They can harvest the hay as often as they want. But here we have an example of end of field. You can plant your whole farm on the contour, but it's usually those end rows that go up and down the slopes. But it was another program. It's nothing that we thought of earlier on when we began, but it's something we came along and we promoted a lot of it. And we ended up getting several hundred acres of this program established also. Like I said, I like PowerPoints, and I have usually have pictures in them. This is the rare occasion where I have one that has mostly words, but like I said, Money Talks, the CRP program in Howard County, we have an annual CRP payments of over 6 million. Like I said, almost 25,000 acres, 2,200 contracts. The EQIP program, and that includes our local EQIP pot of money, Riverine, which is a stream bank program, the RCPP, which is a stream bank program, Beginning Farmer, and like I said, the MRBI and NWQI. We have over $4 million of active EQIP contracts. Most of those are cover crop, and that includes 15,000 acres. So and I would say primarily most of those are going to be cover crop acres. So those are contracts that we've worked with farmers. They're long-term contracts. They pay a high rate of dollar-wise. It costs about $30 an acre to fly on the cover crop, $15 for the CRI, $15 for the plane. It's amazing. Our office is right next to the airport. In the summer, the end of August, those planes are just nonstop, and I can't tell you how good that makes us feel that much cover crop is going on, and we can hear it right there. Also, the CSP program is the other one that it's an actual working lands program. So we've got 52,000 acres in the county and pay out $8 million a year. And that's mostly, the biggest part of that is nutrient management. Farmer is required to soil sample, only apply the amount of nutrients needed for that crop, split nitrogen, so they're not putting it all on the front end, and reducing tillage and doing cover crops. So that's almost like the insurance policy that we use to wrap this whole thing together. It's the glue that holds a lot of this together, and is that extra incentive for our farmers to do the right thing. And I'm proud to say we have the most CSP contracts in the state of Iowa. This last year, we had the most applications in the nation. And we do our best to, with, like I said, an amazing staff to work through all of these applications. It's definitely not easy. People put in longer hours than what their paycheck probably says, but like I said, it's a passion that we have. Like Hunter's project, this is my project. We leverage dollars from many programs. In my watershed, 22% of that $7 million is coming from the landowners, but these CSP is a federal program, CRP, EQIP, and then the 319 WSPF and WERB, those are state programs. So like I've told my legislators when we're talking to them about funding these programs, give me $1 of financial assistance and I will turn it into $10 of conservation dollars in my county. Hunter and I do a tremendous amount of promotion. Obviously with COVID this last year, it really cut into our ability to go to a lot of our PF banquets, a lot of the Kiwanis groups, schools, and things like that. But we're more than happy to do these type of meetings too. But that's another avenue of keeping in contact with as many partners as we can. Pheasants Forever is an exceptional program. I've been on our board for 20 years. I just got elected president of that board. Hunter is now the banquet chairman of that committee. And like I said, we're not just here to collect a check and punch our time card in. We become part of the community. And I think that's very important for watershed projects around the country, is to find those individuals that can make those connections and are willing to build those bonds and those partnerships within the community of conservation-minded people. What we're doing is pulling a lot of different groups together for what we're doing. We love, one of my favorite parts of what I do and what Hunter enjoys is the working with the students, our local colleges and our high school. We have Dale Denler, who is a local high school environmental studies teacher, who has been fantastic. In fact, Hunter was in his high school class when I first met him, and I do a lot of my recruiting for getting some of these new employees down the road and interns from those contacts. Like I said, mentoring has become one of the most rewarding aspects of what I do. Hunter Slifka, he started working with us the second day out of high school. The first day out of high school, he had to go to Upper Iowa University for a campus visit. But he has been with us. We hired him right on as a district technician. He came back every summer. And as soon as he got out of college with a degree in conservation management, he had a job for himself, and he already had a name for himself and the experience. Dalton Nelson has been with us 2 years. This will be his third year with us. And so also developing, not only just to introduce them, but develop that connection so that eventually they'll find a job in this field. Community engagement. We invited the Iowa Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Mike Naig, last year to tour the watersheds with us, visit with the farmers. I think it's more important for them to see firsthand from the farmer how our programs and what we're doing affects their operation and their ability to do these programs. We also invite our local state representative and senator to tour some of the sites that we're doing. And we've probably got 15 different organizations that we report to not only share what we're doing, but so that they understand what the community is doing for water quality in the community. We had Senator Grassley on a visit here last 2 years ago. But we take every opportunity we can to get the word out about how important conservation funding is. Hunter and I have been blessed to have 2 opportunities to travel to Washington, D.C. in 2017 and 2018. We were able to testify at Congress. We went to the White House and talked to USDA representatives about what we're doing in Iowa and how we do leverage those federal dollars to accomplish what we're doing with the farmers here in Howard County. And like I said, obviously the watershed tours are very important, and not only, but these watershed tours, it's anyone from the city and the town can come along too to see what, and that also shows that the farmers are doing things and they care about the water, and it bridges that communication gap that we sometimes see. Field days and educational opportunities, like I said, are pivotal in what we're doing. Our county fair in Howard County is an amazing event. We usually have 40 to 50,000 people come through our booth over a 5-day period. We go to the state capitol in Des Moines every year and promote conservation at Conservation Day. We hold field days as often as we can with the Iowa Learning Center and IDLES and NRCS. And here's this amazing team that I have the joy and privilege to work with every day in Howard County in the NRCS, and Soil and Water District. Just a group of people who are passionate, who have empathy for our customers, who go that extra mile to make sure that we serve everyone equally and everyone has the opportunity. We do our best, and there's no one more disappointed than application that goes unfunded. And if it goes unfunded, we're going to sure try the next round. And then we couldn't do what Hunter and I do without the amazing Soil and Water District Commissioners. These 5 individuals are elected to 4-year terms, and you couldn't ask for a greater group of people who support what we're doing and have given us the tools to make sure that we can accomplish our goals in what we're doing. Like I said, through the contact from this program and what we've been doing, Hunter and I are available anytime to answer questions, to address groups, and just share what we're doing, because we want to replicate that. And I think that was the first meeting we had with Christine. We want to replicate this across the country. There's no reason that every county office in the nation shouldn't have people that are there promoting and caring about the land and putting conservation on the land and doing whatever we can to ensure that. And like I said, it's a multifaceted approach. It begins with in the schools. It begins with getting interns and giving them the tools to learn. Hunter Slifka, when he was going to Upper Iowa taking those courses, he said his experience in the real world in our office, working with real farmers, putting real conservation on the land, made his college experience more valuable and twice as important to him because he knew what he was going to be doing when he graduated. And like I said, the partnerships that we've had, an amazing group of people from the Iowa Coldwater Conservancy, the DNR, the EPA, Trout Unlimited, County Conservation, just an amazing group. So I have to put my little disclaimer on there, or I get slapped on the wrist for not doing that. But so that's kind of in a nutshell. Like I said, I like giving presentations, and Hunter said, "Don't be talking too much." But I did sneak a few extra ones in after he did that because I must say Hunter Slifka is one of the most amazing young men, individuals you'll ever meet. He not only is involved in the fire department and Pheasants Forever, he is the junior high head coach for wrestling. He is the assistant coach for wrestling. And just this last week, his father, who was the head coach at the Crestwood, got coach of the year for 2A. Hunter got the assistant coach, and he also got the assistant head coach for the junior high. So he is accomplished on the mat, in the field, and in our office. So I can't say enough thank you to him and his support. And the two of us work pretty good together and do rally the troops here in the office to get a lot accomplished. So like I said, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak. And I think Christine will have some time for question and answers here.
Yeah, wow.
Wow, it's right.
Neil, we called you our local heroes in Howard County for a very good reason. I think everybody can attest to that on this Zoom presentation. It is just such gratitude to have you in our state, and just think if we had this happening throughout our whole state and throughout the whole Midwest, things would look a lot different. And seriously, and that's why we want to share these stories and amplify your voice and Wayne Fredericks and some of the others that are doing the right thing for the planet. So thank you. We have quite a few questions, but I do want to give Steve Falk is going to make a couple of plugs for a soil health bill. But let's take a couple of questions, and then we'll just take a couple of minutes, and Chris can let Steve say a couple of words and a pitch for a soil health bill that both Tim Wagner and him have been working on. So again, thank you so much. And we're incredibly grateful. And it was such a pleasure to meet you. I think it was 6 months ago, like you mentioned, when we were on the Turkey River, and Tim just kind of casually said, "This is Neil," and told us a little bit about the story. And I said, "That's exactly what we need, and we want to promote that." And I did a story on you in our UMRI website, and called you our local heroes, and that's exactly what you are. And we need to make you as famous as any of the Cubs baseball players or the Hawks. We need to have celebrities in the watershed, and you guys are. So thank you. And Chris,
Not just in that watershed. We're looking at what Neil's done and thinking, how in the heck can we do that over here in central Iowa? We've got some really great questions, and we've got such a broad range of people on here. Why don't you start us off with the difference in tillage methods? The difference between strip till, no till, minimum till, just briefly, and then tell us who designs these projects. Is it you and Hunter, or do people come to you with the idea and you take whoever comes in the door? How do you choose which projects you do?
We do both ways. We have the word of mouth. Farmer to farmer share is amazing. We have some outstanding farmers in the watershed that if a farmer is a little concerned about how to go about doing the cover crops, we send them too. But Hunter and I, we do all the layout surveys of all the stream banks, all the waterways. We have people that help check those designs and things like that. But as far as design of cover crops and stuff, I mean, we went down the plat map of the county and our watersheds and started figuring out this is where this farm is, this is in this watershed. We pull their, what we call their producer report, all their farms. We list down all the ones that were in my watershed, what's in his watershed. We get them an application. Hunter and I will take a stack of applications with us in the pickup. It's usually October when the deadline is. So what are farmers doing in October? They're out in their fields. So if we see someone in a combine or making stock bales, we drive right out to them. We say, hey, sign an application. We're going to talk about that this winter. It's about cover crops. And they're like, hey, that sounds good to us. And then, we worry about that at a later date. So we put a lot of effort in getting applications signed in the front end, getting those Hunter and I work through and get all the farms and what fields and what seeding mixes and all that kind of stuff. We do all the native seeding mixes ourselves. So it is, but like I said, we have a lot of support from our coworkers to make sure that these contracts go through. They're a very detailed, very complicated, long, tedious process to getting these federal programs through, especially. So, but once they are, it's a good source of money. It's a great incentive for the farmers, and it's well worth the time and effort to put into it.
And the question about continuation, you talked about 2 and 3 year contracts, and if they did minimum till or no till, that you could make them 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's a wonderful way to get them started. But
Oh, absolutely.
if you've got somebody on a 2 year, what happens after the 2 years?
Yeah, so if we do a 3-year program and they're getting used to not doing tillage in the fall, because that's also part of having those cover crops is a guarantee you're not going to do fall tillage. You're going to hold that crop and that soil health, and we're going to have, what we're trying to do is emulate the natural environment and having growing living roots in the soil, not only during the summer when it's corn and soybeans, but in the fall when the cover crop takes over and grows in the spring. And the minimum till, so that right there reduces fall tillage. Then we take it to the next step with the CSP program because they have to reduce tillage. Maybe they'll take one less pass. Then we take them to the next level. And if you do, we'll start out just doing no-till on planting soybeans into corn stalks. Well, then we get them to do both ways. And then that takes you to the 5-year program. Then we can add another $10 on top of the $50. I mean, it's just graduating up the ladder. And it's nice thing about it is it eases people into the first step, and then they slowly are headed in the right direction. And these programs are there and incentivized to reward people for doing good practices and being good stewards of the land.
Do you think if somehow the funding were to dry up or whatever, or they aged out, would they continue?
The reason I also like these continued long-term programs is because it takes 5 to 7 years to really reap the rewards of what soil health can do for your land. And if we just do it 1 year and they get an incentive and then they don't do it for a couple years, we need this continuation. We've had people who are on a waiting list because we had $2.5 million worth of applications this sign up just for cover crop. And we'll hopefully get about $1 million towards that. And those people in the waiting wings will either do a little bit with state cost share program, but these people are already trying it out. And we've had people that once they've been in it, they see the benefits of it, they want to continue. So even if the cost share goes away or declines, they will see the results and the benefit even without the incentive. That's our ultimate goal.
Okay.
And to use those incentives for other people that haven't done it so we can start the process with them.
All right. We've got several questions about cover crops, nutrient management, cropping. Can you rank them in order of how well they work? And another question about, you talk about seeing the farmer in his combine. Do you also work with the non-farmer like me, the landowner who is really, really interested, but unless I'm out there riding in the combine, they don't see me.
Hey, there's no farm too big or too small. We just worked with an individual. They had a 1.5 acre patch where they used to plant sweet corn and they didn't want to do it anymore. And we signed them up for a pollinator program, and they will be planting their 1.5 acres to pollinator. They're about a 1/4 mile from the stream. So they are also participating. We have some urban practices where we're working on lawns and windbreaks, the septic systems. Yeah, there's no farmer too big or too small. As far as ranking, I would say reduced tillage is going to be your first benefit. Secondly, getting those live roots in the soil to help hold that soil and start developing the structure of the soil so that you have more infiltration, you have that nutrient holding on to. And the reason some people do the strip crop or the strip cropping is because they've gone to no-till. They need to put that nutrient into the ground, the phosphorus or the P or the nitrogen, so it's just not laying on top of the soil. So they're injecting it or not injecting or using dry, however it is, but they're only disturbing a very small strip in the field. So all of those are graduated. They all hold on to the same ideals. But the other thing, what's so interesting about cover crops, and we've seen, and we'll work with livestock producers that are putting on manure. Anyway, we had an individual that did cover crops and he injected manure, hog manure. We went out there later that fall. Where the strip of manure was, the cover crop was about 6 inches taller than the other cover crop, and it was twice as green. So we see that is holding on to those nutrients over the winter. It's holding on to the nutrients, not only that might be applied in the fall, but what wasn't used during the growing season of the previous year, holds it over the winter. When you kill it in the spring, that plant slowly deteriorates over the summer, releasing those nutrients back when the plant uses it. And not only that, but it increases the number of worms in the soil. I could do a whole presentation on soil health and the worms and the structure of the soil, which is another awesome dynamic, and which has come into play with NRCS in the last 5-6 years. And with cover crop, I mean, it's just like the planets have aligned.
John Norwood has a question that I wanted to ask, and I'm going to read it just the way he's written it. What role does your SWCD commissioners play in all of this? Who drives the vision for your county? And how do we clone Neil Shaffer and what's happening in Howard County? I added that, John Norwood, I hope you don't mind.
Well, I think we drink a lot of coffee here in the morning, so we get a lot of energy to begin with. But honestly, we did. We went and bought a second coffee pot because the first round, it was gone too quick. But the Soil and Water Commissioners, like I said, they're amazing. We have monthly meetings. Hunter and I both give reports to them each month. We bring them our conservation plans for funding. We have annual reviews of our projects. We see them. They're in our community. They're active. 4 of them are active farmers. One is a nurse at the hospital. And actually, we met her when we did their windbreak on their acreage. And so they are very involved. We keep them very informed. Who's the driver? I'd say it's the farmers in our community who are willing to accept these new practices and be innovative and open-minded about what Hunter and I present to them.
It's just amazing to me. I've been an assistant commissioner and a commissioner. I've never had this experience that you're describing. It's wonderful. Carolyn wants to know, what sort of language do you use? Does soil health resonate more than regenerative ag, whatever? And and I'm hearing you say that you're working more with the farmer on the combine. So what words do you use?
Okay. So when I first started working in the soil and water, doing conservation plans, I had, when I wrote a conservation plan, I put this statement on that plan: to reduce soil erosion, to improve water quality, enhance wildlife habitat, and increase net farm income. Now, all those other things are wonderful, but you know what? A lot of the times it's increasing net farm income. And if I can put a package together that not only shows that we're going to help pay for some of this. I had a farmer come in a desperate situation. He had a tremendous erosion on his farm. He had to put new tile with it. It was going to cost, he was only available for, it was going to be about a $50,000 waterway project. He was going to have to pay $25,000 out of pocket. And he just didn't have it. It was 3 years ago, times were tough. But I said, you know what, have you ever thought about the CSP program or the cover crop program? And I said, let me do some figuring. And he went back home and we started figuring out what it would cost to build that, but also that he would qualify for the CSP program, which would pay maybe $30, $40 an acre on his working land. Also the cover crop program, he was in the high priority area, that added to it. He came back and we signed him up for a $125,000 CSP contract over 5 years. He still got the $25,000 cost share on the waterway, but he ended up with an additional $100,000. And he came in, he was an elderly farmer. He working on, I mean, like I said, it was very emotional when he came in and he said, where's a pen? I'll sign. And so it's not just someone comes in, I've got an erosion, what can I do? We want to work as a whole farm planner, look at their whole operation and try to bring in as many aspects of what we can do. Not overwhelm them, but to help alleviate that. But honestly, the driver in a lot of these is, the bottom line is we have to make their operation fluid. And these funding programs, the CSP program, that farmer is going to use that money for other practices, for that 22% that they contribute, whether it's building terraces or waterways or a farm pond or on some of those other things.
All right, we're coming down to 7:52. Do you have a cutoff at 8 o'clock, Christine, or do we have a couple of minutes extra? Because I've got a couple more. Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, no, it's fine. And I do want to get Steve in and Tim in for a couple more comments.
Okay.
But Ryan Moss, I had sent you that question before, and now
Yes,
he's
and
figuring.
we talked about the end part of this question about whether he took whatever came in the door or acute problems and going after him. And he said both, but the monitoring part of this question, I want to make sure that we talk about, Ryan. Have the monitoring results identified quantifiable improvements in the stream reaches, in before versus after the project, whether the chemical, physical, water quality, or fauna or otherwise? And then a little bit more about taking whatever comes in the door, opportunity-based approach, or acute problems and go after them as best you can, or some other project selection method. So you talked a little bit about that part before, but the monitoring too, can you?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, and I would have liked to spend some time on that. We are seeing significant improvements, reductions in bacteria, reductions in sediment to the streams, improvements in the fauna and the stream corridor itself. We do a rascal assessment. Hunter and I walked every foot of our streams. Hunter and I, he was a college student at the time. We've done it twice in Silver Creek. We walked every foot of Silver Creek. It was about 27 miles. And every 500 feet, we have a handheld assessment, and we have about 15 parameters that we're doing. And we do that for the whole stream. We did all of Hunter's Turkey River. It was over 57 miles that we walked, every foot of it. Now, some people, projects, they hire that out. I don't believe that. I believe you get in there, you get dirty, you go and And we walked it in the summertime, which they say, oh, don't do it in the summer. It was beautiful. We were walking down the streams in swim trunks and water shoes. And it was wonderful. But we got to see up close. We marked every tile outlet. We marked every eroded bank so that when we came down the road, we had that. As far as people coming through the door, obviously we have limited resources, but I've always said the most dire, the worst situations, if we advance the ball down the field, we've won. I mean, we're not, everyone is so individual. And that's what is fascinating about this job. You are working with very independent people who have very different backgrounds. Their farms are different, backgrounds, abilities, but we're going to work with everyone to fit a program. Obviously, we're not going to use the most elaborate program for someone that's going to go from moldboard plowing to, thank God there's not much of that anymore, but to no-till. I mean, there's expectations on my end. I farmed, I guess I didn't leave that, I left that out. I dairy farmed up until 3 years ago. So not only was I full-time conservationist, but I was farming full-time also. So we sold the cows 3 years ago, and now I can devote all my time to conservation. But Hunter and I have I don't know, maybe we've got a sixth sense for knowing what people can handle and what they can't. And like I've always told everyone, we'll do everything we can. It comes down to if you want to sign that and you feel comfortable signing that contract or not, and we'll go from there. But I wouldn't turn one person away, and honestly, sometimes someone comes at the counter and they might have a kind of a funny idea what they want to do. And we're like, okay. But sometimes they may come in with one idea and they may leave with a different idea or a different alternative of what we can do. But it's all moving the ball down the field.
That's great.
Thank you. We've got a couple more questions, but we want to talk to Steve Falk because I know you've been working on the soil health bill a lot. So can you tell us a little bit about that and what we can do to help you or to get this business through the legislature that doesn't seem all that friendly this year?
Well, thank you, Chris and Christine, for organizing this. And wow, Neil Shaffer, good to see you again. I've heard a lot about what's going on in Howard County, and it's good to hear your presentation. And short of cloning you to all the other SWCDs, there is some legislation that's working its way through the legislature. And I do want to give a shout out to Representative Art Stade, who is with us tonight. He's on this Zoom conference. Art, good to see you. Thanks for joining. So there's a bill that's going to be coming out of the House Agriculture Committee tomorrow morning at 8:45 in the morning. It's House File 646.
Oh.
He got muted.
I don't know how that happened.
Sorry, okay.
Steve, you just there you go.
I don't.
I put my name and email in the chat box. Please,
Great.
we need your help to contact your legislator, both the Senate and the House. The bill is starting in the House, and then the things Neil is talking about tonight, it's time that we put it in the Code of Iowa into Chapter 161A of the code. So every soil and water conservation district will then, have not only soil health policies integrated into what they do, but also water quality. This is a really good bill. Tim Wagner with the Isaac Walton League, John Norris representing the Union of Concerned Scientists, and I have been meeting with legislators since August, a bipartisan group. We have a bill and it's coming out, like I say, of the committee tomorrow, and it's going to be debated on the House floor in the coming few weeks. But we really need to focus on the Senate. That's where I think it's going to be, we're going to have to really work hard to get that through the Senate. But that's my pitch. Send me an email and I will send you some talking points and a copy of what the bill is, and then we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Steve. And
Thanks, Steve. And you said it's on the committee report tomorrow? Or are they actually voting tomorrow?
They're going to vote it out of the House Agriculture Committee tomorrow.
Okay. So Christine, I have a couple more questions if we've got more time, or we're right at 8 o'clock.
It's,
And
it's totally up to Neil if he's
I
available.
think we could probably keep Neil for another half an hour.
We did the last time. Wayne Fredericks ended up another extra half hour because everybody was so excited about all the questions.
Okay, let me see what I've got here. Wayne Webb asks about the monitoring again. Does it include flow measurements?
Yes, it does. We do flow meter. We do about 7 infield studies. Flow meter is one of them. We do bacteria, nitrate, E. coli. We run the whole gamut. And the other nice thing is we are now uploading all that information because for a while there we had a program in Iowa where we could upload all of our data that we've collected. You know, we've got reams of data that we collect, and we're putting that on a site where people can go in there and see it. Yes, we do flow meter, and that's important in my watershed, especially because of the karst area, of the driftless area of Northeast Iowa. We have this interaction of surface water with groundwater, which at one time there was this crazy idea that we shouldn't really worry about those projects up in that area because, you know, that water just goes down the sinkhole. Well, my thought was it's even more important that we have watershed projects and water quality projects in those areas where our surface water is interacting with our groundwater.
Great. I'm going to back to the cover crops for just a second. You said that you had 20,000 acres of cover crops in Howard County. What percentage of the tillable acres does that entail? And then Neil Hamilton had a question also about cover crops, and he was asking about terminating with a roller instead of using chemicals or any other burn down. And can you also talk about whether in Howard County you're doing any planting into green and multi-species and so forth? So just talk about cover crops for 2 or 3 minutes.
I'll go backwards. Multi-species, yes. So when I talked about people that start out with doing just cereal rye, to get the next contract, you got to take it up the next level. You got to do more reduced tillage, but you also need to go to a multi-species. Usually we're talking about turnips, radish, rapeseed, some of those things that not only help with soil health, but help with compaction. A lot of the brassicas help with that. So that we're seeing some of that. And then what was another part of that question? What was the other part of that question?
About terminating them.
Oh yeah. Yes, and we have had people now experimenting with planting green, and they go in and they plant. You know, we're in North Iowa, so not always are we going to have huge cover crops. We usually fly this stuff on later in August, or they have an option of drilling on. Now, on my farm, we flew on the corn, and then we drilled on where we took soybeans off. So we drilled on October 7th. Well, we had a week in early December that was still 50 degrees. So we got some nice growth this fall, but that's not always the case. So when we plant into green in the spring, you know, it's probably going to be 6 to 18 inches at max. We haven't seen a lot of people do the rolling in our area. But like I said, we're moving the ball down the field. Yes, we're still using some herbicides to kill that in the spring, but baby steps forward are better than going backwards.
And then I'm going to make this the last one. It looks like John Norwood has another great one. Do you have approach for capital improvements for land that would likely require the landowner to buy into it versus an annual practice that may require just the operator and the landowner buy-in?
as far as like a long-term, like a WRP program or
Yeah.
things like that.
Mhm.
So that's one of the things. And my people at the state that fund these programs, when the water quality initiative came along, they did a lot of cover crop, nitrogen stabilizers and all this wonderful things, which is great. But I'm a very multifaceted, multi-approach person when it comes to watershed projects. We need the brick and mortar. We need those things that last beyond that initial annual result. Not only a 5 or 7 year program, but let's put in grass waterways. I've been here 20 years now, and I'm seeing those same waterways I designed back in 2020 now come up, and they're still functioning and they're doing a wonderful job. I like the terraces, the ponds. We're doing these nitrate reduction, denitrification ponds where we're taking drainage tile from the fields, we're outletting it into these wetland creations that we're making before it gets to the stream or passes down through the ditch. But those are things that are going to stay there a while. The ag waste programs, the windbreaks, it can't just be, let's spend $5 million on cover crops this year. Well, guess what? Next year, you're going to have to spend $5 million on cover crops. I want to spend some money on things that are going to have long-term. And that's why I said they need, and that's what Hunter did. So I might also say, and I've known Steve Falk for over 20 years, a fantastic individual. I ditto everything he said. I was at the state legislature last week. I was at the state wrestling tournament, and I took the afternoon off, walked up to the Capitol and met with my legislators to talk to them about funding. And I will also say, Hunter and I we're full-time temporary employees. I've been here for 20 years. I am grant-based. Now, isn't that amazing in a state where we've put the nutrient reduction strategy in effect, and the project coordinators in the state of Iowa, over half of them are full-time temporary positions, all grant-based. So every 3 years, Hunter and I have to go out, write proposals to fund our position to begin with, just so that we can do our work. And that was my main point when I was down in the legislature. So there is so much that Iowa can do, and we can replicate this in watersheds and counties around the state and the nation, but especially in Iowa, if we get these bills in and we get that 3/8 cent program approved. I mean, I've been down there for years, and I've seen Steve down there when he was working for the governor. And that for me, I have seen too many passionate young people like Hunter Slifka and other people leave this field who have a tremendous amount to offer because we're not making that little extra commitment to make these permanent positions. And that's a shame. That shouldn't happen. But we are very good at what we do as getting these grants. So, and I've always been told, as long as you're doing productive, good work, we'll get those grants. But it still is difficult to attract and keep good people in these long-term positions.
All right. I think that we're at the end of our questions for the time being, and I'm going to turn it back to you, Christine.
Okay, I just wanted again to thank everybody for taking time out. And as we've mentioned before, everybody's pretty much zoomed out, but this was well worth it. And just one point about the water monitoring, I know that that's been really important. And Neil, you mentioned that before. If it wasn't for the monitoring, you wouldn't know that you guys were doing such a great job. And I just wanted to emphasize that again. So soil health equals water quality equals money. And Tim, I'll let you close too. I'll let you close this evening because I know you probably have a couple more things to say.
Well, I don't have a lot to say, Christine, except very much big thank you to you and to Christine and Bud for helping out. We couldn't do this without you guys. So just to go back to what Steve was talking about, this particular bill that hopefully will come out of the House Ag Committee tomorrow is one of the best shots we've seen in a long time to really make some significant improvements in the state of Iowa. And going back to exactly what Neil was talking about, trying to get the soil and water districts more resources that they so badly need to do the things they need to do. I would urge everybody, if you're from Iowa, I don't care if you're not from Iowa, pick up the phone and call a state representative or senator and just say, hey, look out for this bill. We need your support. This is a really good opportunity. It's a win-win for everybody. So I'll leave it at that. And thank you everybody for joining in. This has been a phenomenal evening. Thank you all.
And next month, the first Tuesday of every month, we have another presentation. And so stand by. If you've registered, we will send you a link for the next event as well. We won't put you on the mailing list unless you'd like, but I will send you the next link. So I guess we're done. If anybody would like to say anything or stay on, I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes. If anybody would like to discuss anything else, just let us know. And
I'm leaving the chat open, and somebody asked about a recording. The recording will be available on the UMRI website. Is that where you put them?
Yes, but I will send it out to everybody on this that registered as well.
Okay.
It will also be, if you do Facebook, it will be on the Iowa Division Facebook page, the Des Moines Isaac Walton League Facebook page, and the Panora chapter Facebook pages.
What was the name and number of that bill again?
House File 646.
646, okay.
Yep, thanks for asking, Jim.
I thought somebody put in 464. I thought on the.
Yeah, that was my original mistake.
Oh, okay. I thought it was, I'm dyslexic, so I mix up numbers. So I just wanted to be sure.
It is 646.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, join me in
Yes.
thanking Neil.
Yes,
Good
thank
job,
you.
Neil.
Gratitude.
Neil.
Gratitude. We have some amazing people, and we still have.
Thank you all for coming. My goodness.
Yeah, thanks. Have a beautiful evening, everybody.
All right.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, everyone.
And could I say for anybody that's saying on, I miss our former DNR director in Iowa, Paul Johnson. He passed away on the 15th. He was a great friend of my dad's, and he saved our animals that were dying in Floyd County when he did that research on Floyd County's nitrites that were building to such high levels that he closed an ag drainage well just a mile upstream from our farm. And that caused a lot of health conditions that my brothers and sisters, a lot of them have passed away from, and my dad also from the cancers. But we need to address legal drainage outlets or at least more consciousness of how tile lines are the depth. If you knife in the nitrogen fertilizers right just above them, they're draining right into there. We're losing nitrogen that way too. And this ongoing ignoring of our drainage outlets from every field could be a great help. Like Johnson was always trying to encourage closing of, well, not just the egg drainage wells, but even some of the French drains and other things. So I really miss him because he actually allowed me to live longer. I've gotten through several cancers with Mayo Clinic's help, and the doctors up there have actually said, when is Iowa going to do something about their nitrogen fertilizer? Or, you know, we are kind of behind, especially Neil's presentation. We need to, and I'm just missing Paul. He counseled my son that created the Russell III equation that unfortunately, after Obama installed it, then Trump redacted it, or access to the EPA and NRCS data that those equations utilized. But I'm hoping Obama's work will not be all erased. I think our new administration will hopefully reinstate some of the good conservation work that was done, not just, well, even after Paul Johnson, Robert Lieber, who's still with us, did on the research of these nitrites that we can't filter out of our tap water that test even in Waukees water where I live now. And I have a reverse osmosis professional DuPont filter, but it won't take them out. And we got,
Thank you, Veronica. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, big.
And we're missing Paul Johnson too. He's a
Yeah.
good guy. He was a
Yeah.
really good guy.
He was a hero.
Yes, he
yep,
was.
for me and my family.
was.
Yeah.
My dad ran for supervisor after that in Floyd County after he found out what was killing our cattle. And he pushed for closing ag drainage wells and then worked on the different, when he was in George Nauman, when he was in as a board of supervisor, he worked on those. Avenue of the Saints was being built, and they were cutting up a lot of the drainage patterns for farmers, and so he worked on trying to help people get that. But a lot of work has been done since Paul Johnson got people to think about the drainage, and we need to continue that.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Art. Thanks
Thank
for
you,
being
buddy.
here.
It was
Have
a
a good
good
night.
night.
Thank you.
Thanks,
again, Neil.
Veronica. Thank you so much for taking time to listen to this presentation and to participate.
Yeah, I had a few tests today. I'm having issues, but I got through those appointments with masks and all that. Still hope everybody gets a chance to get a COVID
Yeah.
vaccine.
I've got
All
my
right.
first one.
I'm hoping to see my grandkids yet, other than on FaceTime and stuff. Just
Yeah,
give 'em a hug.
exactly. All right. Again, thanks, Neil. Gratitude
Thank you.
beyond.
Oh, it
Great.
was great.
Great. I want to clone you for Greene County. We need you back.
Well, someone said, how do you keep this stuff going? With a lot of happy attitude. I had a DC once that said, you might have a bad day coming through the door, but when you come through the door, don't let it bring other people down. So I've always made it my purpose in life and where I work is to uplift people and give them that enthusiasm, because enthusiasm is contagious.
It
And
is.
we're very light-spirited here. We have a fantastic crew that I get to work with every day. It's just a blessing to get to work with Hunter Slifka right across the way here. I know he's very disappointed he couldn't be here tonight, but he's definitely encourages me. I mean, I got to thinking a few years ago, we've got to get more of the next generation involved. So
Absolutely.
I love mentoring. I go down to some of these state meetings and I got an entourage of 4 or 5 interns and young workers, and they say, well, here comes Neil with his mentoring program. But it's true, you got to inspire these other people. And yeah, it's tough. It's not an easy program we're doing, and the funds are difficult. The programs are not always difficult. Jim Wolf will attest to that. Government, I think you told me that when I started here, if you ask why do we do that, you'll go crazy. So you don't ask why, you just do until they tell you to do it differently. So we do the best we can and make the best decisions each day. And so I'm a cheerleader on the side too.
It's a shame that you have to spend all that time fundraising for yourselves, though, because you could be using that energy for.
Not only that, I should have brought that up with the monitoring. They cut our money for monitoring about 5 or 6 years ago, and Hunter and I went to the commissioners and said, hey, that consistent monitoring and data is so important for future projects. We can't let it die. So they contributed money toward it. So then Hunter and I went out to the community with our hat in hand, and we've had some fantastic benefactors. The Howard County Experimental Farm gave us $2,500. So each year we need to raise about $2,500 from other entities to keep our monitoring program going. And that, like I said, that's a shame too, because if we don't have the monitoring, we're not going to be able to show the good things.
Benchmark it, yeah.
And if there's those groups out there that think, oh, we don't want to monitor, we don't want to know about it. No, I want to monitor, and my farmers want monitoring done to prove that yes, what we're doing is making a difference. And so I'm on the other side of that. I don't see monitoring as a downside at all. It's just wonderful things. It shows the money that the feds and the state is giving us is working, and without that, we don't have a whole lot to say.
Exactly.
You're doing a great job, Neil.
Appreciate it, Neil. I wish I had had your help back when I was trying to keep in compliance to my Corps of Engineers agreement, the 404 agreement. I had to spend $150,000 of my own money to be in compliance. And then 2 years after they drove me off that farm, they dug away the GRS and they dug away the two seedings on the
it's
CRP contracts I could have.
It's not that we just want to raise trout. We want to improve the water. And what I say is the trout is the best indicator and the best salesman that I've had. And better than any brochure I can have is to have Hunter standing there with a trout in his hand. And if that isn't a tremendous sale on why we have to do what we're doing and be good stewards of the land, I don't know what there is. So, but we'll do we're going to continue that. We're going to keep saying that. And thank you for this podium, this stage to tell what we're doing, because Hunter and I never get tired of telling what we're doing. And,
well, we're going to continue to amplify your voice and make you a household name for Iowa and beyond.
Thank you all, and everyone have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you.